Good afternoon, Mark Dickman here, coming to you from my living room outside of Silverton a few days before you're seeing this. I need to mention that if you think I'm staring at the sky from time to time, it's because I'm reading the script off my laptop screen and the camera on the laptop screen is down at the bottom. But I'm really speaking to you even if I'm looking to the sky for guidance. I also want you to know that I really am with you also in real time, virtually, on this assembly Saturday afternoon. I welcome and thank each of you who have come to this virtual Synod assembly. And I especially appreciate all of you who are here right now as we talk about money. In Luke 14, Jesus says, "For which of you intending to build a tower does not first sit down and estimate the cost to see whether he has enough to complete it?" In the New Revised Standard Version, the editors have chosen to title this section, "The Cost of Discipleship." It seems appropriate that we consider for a bit the costs, financial and otherwise, of following Jesus and of doing ministry in God's name. Financial matters are not the work or the mission of the church. Yet, like most things in our modern world, money is common currency of exchange that allows us to buy the goods and services that we need to do our work and achieve our goals. You have elected me as your treasurer to lead this task. Part of my job is to be sure all of us get a chance to consider the costs, the budgets, the need for resources, the challenge of being good stewards. In fact, what it costs our church to be disciples of Jesus. In the written assembly materials, I gave you a 7-page tome about the budgets and the money issues. If you survived to the end and also looked at the fiscal year 2020 financial reports and also looked at the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget, you have a pretty good handle on Oregon Synod finances. If not, don't worry, I'm not going to read all of that to you again now. I am going to call out a few high points that might encourage discussion and questions and help us prepare for voting on the proposed budget. I also want you to be equipped to go back to your congregations and tell the Synod story, including the costs. First, let us consider the year just past, fiscal year 2020, which ended on January 31st. Let me say, on behalf of Bishop Laurie and the Synod's officers, council, and staff, that we are grateful and thankful for every dollar of mission support, the unrestricted gifts your congregation send to the Oregon Synod, and through the Synod to churchwide, from every congregation that shares our Synod's mission. Like it or not, these dollars are the way that congregations make the biggest impact on the larger church. Here's my first take-home fact for you. Mission support declined in 2020 by almost $50,000, or about 5%. On the bright side, that's good news. In a pandemic, our mission support only slipped 5%. Could have been much worse. On the other hand, it's the continuation of a downward trend that we've been on since 2015. It's the third lowest total mission support that we have received since the start of the ELCA and the Oregon Synod in 1988. This should concern us all. I want to detour for just a moment to clarify something that I left unclear in my written report. I said total revenue for the general fund in fiscal 2020 was about $1.23 million, which is about $135,000 below budget and about $141,000 less than the prior year. There is an error in the last number. In fact, it's about $240,000 less than last year. I simply wrote down the wrong number in the report, and I apologize. But even more important, we need to clarify some terms. I've been using the term total revenue, and I think that's misleading. The literal meaning of revenue or income would lead you to conclude that we have that much money come into the Synod. That is not correct. Total income from outside sources to fund fiscal year 2020 was only slightly over $1 million. We also used draws from our Synod's restricted and reserve accounts totaling about $228,000. Put the two together to get the $1.23 million total funds to pay all of the expenses of the general funds. This means that almost 20% of our general fund expenses were paid from our savings, not from income. I hope that makes things more accurate and clearer. Total funds available to support general fund expenditures in 2020, including mission support, support from Churchwide for the DEM program, other income, and transfers from the Synod's restricted funds in the primary reserve were about $42,000 below budget. On the expense side, COVID-19 prevented us from doing a lot of planned work in 2020. So much, in fact, that our expenses were below budget by about $135,000. This does not mean work was not done, but it's cheaper to do it virtually rather than face-to-face. I also suspect it's not as effective virtually, but it does save a lot of travel expense and time. Virtual events are also cheaper to host if we're not providing facilities and refreshments, and the Synod office costs less to run if all but one of our employees are working from home. Bottom line is that despite lower mission support, we saved a lot of money in 2020, which gave a boost to our reserves and restricted funds. Money-wise, we came out ahead and our balance sheet grew. But before we relax, let's look ahead. We are 3 months into fiscal year 2021. As you may recall, our budget for this year is ambitious. Staff recommended, our Finance Committee and our Synod Council endorsed, and on our November Assembly approved a budget with expenditures that require a $50,000 increase in mission support over what was budgeted in 2020, plus a total of $50,000 in special gifts for use for Synod ministries and initiatives. Combined, we have agreed to a plan that requires an 11% increase in our support from last year's plan and $143,000 or 16% increase over our actual 2020 support. That is very ambitious and very optimistic. In the first 2 months, mission support is flat compared to last year. We shouldn't be surprised since we're still living with the challenges of the pandemic. I'm thankful it's not even lower, but cannot stress too strongly, achieving the mission of our Synod will require all of us to increase mission support in the remaining 9 months of the fiscal year. Our staff has done very well so far in identifying partners who wish to engage in the special gifts piece. I'm optimistic we will reach the $50,000 for that part of the increased revenue in our budget. Let's be sure we follow that example for the other $970,000 in budgeted mission support. So here's my second take-home fact. Because of our balance sheet, we are still secure. We're able to pay all our bills. Over the last 2 years, we have also grappled with our reserves and restricted funds, and starting in 2020, slowed the draw from those funds significantly. We cannot spend from our reserves and restricted funds, which are in effect our savings, but even more importantly, our inheritance, like we did from 2016 to 2019. We still need a conversation to define broad, overarching strategic vision of how to use our remaining savings. That's a goal of mine for 2021. From 2016 to 2019, we spent over $340,000 each year. Of the $1.6 million in these accounts at the end of 2020, only about $550,000 could be realistically tapped for any future budget after 2020. That is why it is so important that we increase our mission support for 2021. Ministry and mission will suffer if sufficient resources are not realized. Our budget makes some reductions happen automatically, as there are expense lines in the 21 budget which are contingent upon increased mission support and new special gifts being realized. Mission support from our 115 congregations is not equal. Few of our churches provide the bulk of our funding, others only a little. We are grateful for every dollar. But today, I invite all of us, all of the ELCA congregations who are bound to each other in the Oregon Synod, to prayerfully and creatively consider how to strengthen our stewardship and financial commitment to the Synod. Does your congregation need to work on stewardship? We have people with tools and energy to help. We want to be more connected with you in support of your dreams and vision for your church and wider community. And we welcome your invitation to interact with your church on these things. Ironically, we can only do that if we have sufficient funding to have the necessary staff and resources available. Please join with us to strengthen the presence of Lutherans and our witness to Christ's love by giving as generously as you are able, stepping up the support of your Synod, even as your Synod steps up its support of your work. That brings us to the matter of the budget for fiscal year 2022 that begins next February 1st. At the end of this report, I will be presenting a motion on behalf of the Synod Council that we adopt a budget. To do the work planned and make the expenditures required, this budget calls for another $25,000 increase in mission support from our congregations. This means the total mission support would be $995,000, $108,000 more than last year. It also calls for $75,000 in designated gifts for Synod initiatives, missions, and ministries. This is also a $25,000 increase over our current year. This budget, like fiscal year 2020, shows strong discipline regarding the use of our reserves and restricted funds, but it still relies on $42,800 from the primary reserve fund to balance it, even with the increase in mission support. So let us get very serious. All pay close attention. In my view, ELCA in Oregon is at a critical juncture. We have a lot of things in place to grow God's work in Oregon and beyond. Our bishop and her staff have been on the job about 2 years and have developed good plans and good relationships. They see the work. They have shared it with the Synod Council and this weekend with you. Now we must decide, will we do it? My final take-home point, if the people, the congregations, and the friends of the Oregon Synod cannot provide the funding to grow God's work in Oregon, what shall we do? I believe a year from now, we will be looking at cuts in these programs and initiatives, reduction in staff and work, and retraction of the ELCA in this place. Congregations will not be invited and encouraged to grow their ministry and outreach, and we will just continue to spiral down. But if we step up, embrace these plans, and support this budget, we will have opportunity to see new and miraculous things happen, and we will see our congregations and the Oregon Synod increase their influence on faith and life. Finally, we will grow our partnership and fellowship with Lutherans across the country as we grow our support of ELCA churchwide. This is doable. Both our current budget and the proposed one take a leap of faith, trusting God to lead our stewardship and increase mission support and special gifts. I pray you'll take this message seriously and carry it home to your congregations. That's where it all begins. We're all in this together. And as I heard a pastor once ask, how much will we love? In my written report, I called out the members of the Synod Finance Committee who help and advise us on financial matters. Please take note of these people and offer them your thanks too. Thinking ahead, I also want to invite more of you to engage with us in the financial matters of our synod. We're always looking for new people to step up and volunteer to help in all areas. We need new folks on the finance committee, or to engage stewardship challenges, or just be willing to provide unique and representative leadership. In particular, we're looking for younger folks because the rest of us are just getting older. If you think you might be interested, please reach out to me, to our bishop, or to Vice President Gregg. I appreciate the support that Bishop Laurie, the Synod officers, the Synod staff, and the Synod Council have given me. I do this task humbly by the grace of our loving God and with the constant patience of my wife, Nancy. I welcome your questions anytime. My contact information is at the end of my written report. Thank you for joining me and the members of the Oregon Synod in considering these important financial issues as we count the cost in order to be faithful followers of Jesus.